Yes, that was Clarisse Kalasira with our amazing song praising the RPA in Hotanyi that were able to get us where we are now. So as promised, we are into the interview section and where we're going to have an amazing conversation with the Executive Director of Rwanda We Want, an amazing youth-led initiative, Colbert Rulinda. Welcome in the studios. We're gonna talk about the youth as the custodians of Rwanda's development.
Yes, thank you so much.
Happy Liberation.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Liberation to all of us.
Yes, happy Liberation once again. Earlier in the morning, we were discussing how far we've come as a country in different sectors, health, education, tourism, and so forth and so on. But also, so much more has been achieved in terms of youth development, and so that's what we're going to be tackling in the conversation.
Yes.
Definitely. So, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing amazing as well. So, as Rwanda marks 31 years old, 31 years since liberation, what comes to your mind when we say that the youth are the custodians of Rwanda's future and development?
Yes, thank you so much, Darcy. Thank you so much for having me today. So that's a great question. You actually, by mistake, said 31 years old, but I would actually believe that we are 31 years old because that's when Rwanda was reborn. That's when our country got liberated. But Kwibohora always reminds me of the resilience of the Rwandan people. It reminds me of the selflessness of our parents who liberated the country. But it also reminds me that we, the younger generation, we sort of have a strong pact, or what we call igihango, sort of a responsibility to ensure that we can sustain what has been achieved. We can honor their legacy, but also contribute in building the Rwanda we want. So when we say that the youth are the custodians of the country's development, we are reminded that this young generation has been put at the forefront in this journey of rebuilding, in this journey of development and developing our country. Because we always say that the youth is made up of 65% of the country. So we are always reminded that we have been passed the baton to carry on their legacy, but to also make sure that, first of all, what happened will never happen again, but also make sure that we are contributing to building the future we want.
Yes, we're definitely champions of the change that we want to make. But you, as a person who has been engaged in various youth activities, especially for the progression of your country and making sure the youth are the forefront of some of this action, what do you think makes the post-genocide generation of Rwanda in youth uniquely positioned to lead and protect the country's development journey? Because we are learning from our forefathers, but they're not going to be here, unfortunately, for so long, and we can only consume so much information from them. So what do you think makes the post-genocide youth or Rwandan generation positioned to lead and protect what the country has achieved so far?
Well, I would say that we, especially for people like me and others that were born after the genocide, we grew up in a country that was peaceful, was having a very high economic growth, economic development. We had great education. We grew up with good infrastructures and everything. But again, I'm reminded that even in the past, in 1994, the youth were there. You were the ones that actually contributed in the genocide against the Tutsi. They were at the forefront of killing and doing all those bad things. So I'm always reminded that we must always be vigilant. We must always be ready to work for our country, because the fact that we grew up in this beautiful country doesn't mean that we can just sit down and let other people do things for us. I always say this, 31 years after the liberation, unfortunately, we are no longer the beneficiaries of this struggle. We have come to be contributors to this journey of developing the country. So we cannot just sit down just because we're born in this country. We have to also have our own contribution. We are active contributors to this country. So of course we have to learn from our pasts to make sure that what happened will never happen again. But we also have to sit down and reflect what is our role in building this nation. Because our parents did what they had to do. They gave us a beautiful country, a peaceful country. How will we carry our legacy? What will we do to make sure that our children that will be born after us will also live in a more prosperous and peaceful country? So it's our responsibility, actually. We have no choice.
Yeah.
We have to carry their legacy and have to make sure that we build a country which is more prosperous than what we have today.
Thank you
Yes,
for that.
definitely. Some of the things, or part of the things that you do, as well as Rwanda We Want in general, is to basically harness and give the youth the skills that they need. And some of those skills, I believe, include leadership skills and, being able to fulfill their own potential as the youth and as Rwanda's future. What are some of those mindsets that you instill in the youth today that can actually be important to Rwanda's future as well as development?
Yes, thank you so much. So Rwanda is actually built on a strong belief that if the future is to be in good hands, the young generation need to be empowered and enabled to reach their full potential. So one of the first mindsets that we try to harness in ourselves and our fellow youth is to remind ourselves that we are no longer, as I said, a beneficiary. So we cannot just sit down and wait for people to do everything for us. No. We have to start coming up with our own homegrown solutions to the challenges that we have. And that is how actually Rwanda was started, because we were sitting down back in high school in 2015, and we were reflecting on, what are the challenges that the young generation are facing today? Because the challenges that hinders the youth will eventually hinder the country's development. So that is how we started Rwanda organization, to try to find a way to come up with our own homegrown solution to those challenges that we are facing. Because if we can deal and address those challenges, we can eventually be empowered and enabled enough, again, to reach our full potential and to be good leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah. And speaking of intergenerational dialogue as well as mentorship, we did speak of how yes, the youth did take part in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but also the youth of today are taking part in trying to build a better future for this country, learning our history, and also putting forth Rwanda in general in terms of growth. We also often so in my question to you is, what role should elders or mentors in various institutions play in terms of guiding youth to take up a leadership with integrity as well as purpose?
Yes, thank you so much. I think the first base when we talk about elders, I think directly of our parents, because everything starts in the family settings. Everything starts from home. So I think our parents have a really great responsibility in shaping the future of this country and the future of this generation, because they have to always and consistently remind us of our history, the country's history. We cannot do anything and we cannot go anywhere if we do not know where we came from. We have to learn the country's history. We have to know what happened. And we have to learn it from our parents directly, unfortunately, because when we are home, that's where we learn everything when we're kids, when you're young, we're still young. So at a very young age, our parents have the great responsibility, of reminding us, this country came from this and is going to this. So this is your responsibility. This is, this is what went wrong here. This is what we did wrong, but also this is what happened, to make sure that we have a good country today. So I think our parents have the first and great responsibility to remind us of, this is your role to do this and this and to rebuild the country. So I think it all starts at home. It all starts in the family settings, and that is where, we will learn firsthand of what happened in the genocide and what can we do to make sure that it will never happen again.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And we've talked about the growth of Rwanda, the improvements, different achievements we've, seen so far, but there's always room for achievement, there's always room for growth. Do you think that the Rwandan youth today feel the ownership of Rwanda's future, or do you see that there are some, like I said, room for growth, and what are those?
Yes, I believe there is always room for growth, room for improvement. But I will start by saying that I believe the Rwandan youth have ownership of the country's development, are at the forefront of the country's development. The fact that we have organizations such as Rwanda We Want and other youth-led organizations that you see every day, such as our past, it shows that we know our responsibility. It shows that we have learned from our past, and it shows that we know what to do to rebuild the country. Even the government has put the Rwandan youth at the forefront in different areas and different aspects. But of course, we still have like small challenges. We still have the young generation, people that are going in other risky behaviors that are not, productive or anything. And I'm always reminded of a quote that President Paul Kagame said the last time in the event of Kwibohora 30. He said that this country is ours to build and ours to protect. So we have people that are trying to spoil, what we have achieved, and the only way they can do it is disrupting, the young generation through different activities. So yes, we see some of the youth that are still in some risky behaviors, that are still, not really engaged in rebuilding the country. Some of them say, that's politics, I cannot do that. So we still have a small number of them, but I would say that the majority of our young generation have taken ownership. We have been passed the baton, and I will confidently say that we are really at the forefront of rebuilding the Rwanda that we want.
Yes, and speaking of looking ahead and in regards to the future, if you were to speak to a young Rwandan, mainly in the teenage years, what would you be able to tell them in terms of their role in shaping Rwanda's next 31 years?
I will always tell them, or tell even myself, to reflect on this journey of Kwibohora, and to learn from some of the characteristics or traits of our parents that liberated the country. They were selfless. They had a goal. They had a vision of a country that is united, that is prosperous, and they're resilient. So I think those are the characteristics that we need to embody ourselves, that we need to learn from them. And to the future generation, including even the present generation at the moment, we have to also be resilient, we have to be selfless, and most importantly, we have to have a goal in our mindset. What is the Rwanda that we want? As I said, we have a very good country today, we have infrastructure, we have education, we have economic growth, but what are we building for our children? What are we building for our descendants? So we need to also be resilient, we need to also be selfless, and we need to have that goal, that mission, that vision of the Rwanda that we want. So by knowing what we want, and by learning from our past, learning from where we came from, I think we will be able to build a more united, peaceful, and prosperous Rwanda in the next not only 31 years, but also 100 years.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Now, you just talked about how we can actually get there, but how do we ensure that we don't get too comfortable? You did mention that a lot of the youth, a lot of people were actually born after the genocide in a peaceful country, in a country that had already started evolving. So how do we make sure we keep the spirit and not get too comfortable because we only, hear and see the history, which is very uncomfortable and a violent history at that, but we live in a beautiful country. So how do we, not get too comfortable with the peace?
I mean, that's again an issue of mindset, because as I said, when we look at what happened, that's what we need to learn from our history. When we look at what happens, the youth were easily manipulated, even before the genocide. It was something that was planned. At the time, they also had, great things. They also had infrastructure at the time and development. But the young generation were manipulated to believing in something that was wrong. They were manipulated to believing that we were not equal, we were divided. And that's where they focus, that's where they put all their energy. So I think the only way is, again, to changing our mindset, but also to learning from our history, because when we learn from our history, we know what went wrong, we know what happened, and we know how to make sure that it will never happen again. So it's an issue of mindset, it's an issue of making sure that, even though, yes, we have a good country, but we are reminded that we also had a good country, and it was disrupted by the genocide and the discrimination. So we have to make sure that all those negative factors are avoided at the moment, but also make sure that we are sustaining what have been achieved, and to make sure that we have a peaceful country.
Yes, thank you for that. Now, as we conclude, first of all, thank you so much for your insights, especially coming from a youth. It's always a great when we're addressing the young people, for them to hear from a youth like you. So you're the executive director of Rwanda We Want. How can people be able to reach information about Rwanda We Want, take part in some activities, or just be part of the change that Rwanda We Want is trying to enact?
Yes, thank you so much. So, as Rwanda itself, we are not only a youth-led organization, but we are also an organization that works specifically with the youth in Rwanda. So it's a youth-to-youth initiative. So all of our programs target the youth, but all our programs were made by the youth. Rwanda is open to the youth to join us in this journey of rebuilding. We have our website, we have social media platforms, which are always Rwanda We Want, where anyone who wants to contribute in building the Rwanda that we want can reach out to us and can volunteer in all of our different activities. But again, the first initiative to anyone is not only like joining Rwanda We Want. You can join different initiatives and different programs and aspects of the country that contribute in developing. We have different initiatives that were put on by the government and other institutions. So it starts by you, it starts with you, and wherever you are at home, it starts with the mindset of recognizing that it's your responsibility to build the Rwanda that you want.
100%.
Yes, thank you so much for the amazing conversation. Unfortunately, the hours are going and we have to stop from here, but these are definitely conversations that we'll keep having even in the future. So you heard from him, from Colbert. Rwanda We Want is open to everyone. If you have anything to contribute, especially to the youth of Rwanda, you can reach out to them. But for now, that is it with the interview. Let's dive into yet another break. Let's have a song before we dive into another amazing interview. We'll be right back.